Alrighty. So we started out with the purpose of why we wanted to build an off-season robot, and we have a couple reasons. So the first thing is CAD practice. We don't have a lot of CADers right now. It's mainly just me and Cedric, and this is a good time for both of us to get better, but also to train new people. Um, and then there's the lack of time pressure, which allows us to work on the details more and learn like how to do them properly. The next reason was programming practice. Um, we didn't have the functional PDI control or PID control at a state, and we were never able to get the vision working properly. And this is a good time for us to test out during off-season competitions on a new robot. And then Cedric was saying that he wants to reduce the use of AI on a robot to make the code more readable, and that way if like we have mistakes, we know how to fix them because it wasn't AI that wrote them, it was the actual coders. um, so that was our purpose. Oh, also, we want to work on building systems that we either have little experience in or have never done, because that will expand our knowledge of what we can do. So if we can basically do things that we haven't done before, we learn how to do them in the off season. So if we ever have a game where we need said shooter or said intake, we have now built them in the off season. We know how to do that, and we can do that without having to worry about district points or making it to state or worlds or whatever. So we spent a lot of time talking about the systems. First, for the drivetrain, we want to test out the easy swerve. This is kind of a good time to do it. We don't have to worry about doing good. It's a time to test things. Our main reason for wanting to use it was there's no 550s, and it's a lot easier to maintenance, and I believe it's also significantly easier to uh, build, which means we can get them done quicker, but also it means that if we have an issue, it'll be an easier thing to diagnose and fix. Um, that's easy swerve. It's, I believe, similar to the MK4 in design, like the way it's done. I believe it's a little bigger though. So for the intake, we want to try out a linear intake. We can practice our rack and pinion, and it's a good thing for us to try because it's kind of a different style and a different challenge for us to go over. So that's also kind of like the meta that a lot of people were doing. It seemed to work really well. So I think that's something we should also try. For the shooter, we decided to go with a drum shooter. I think with the time we have and the skill right now, I don't think we're quite ready for a turret. But a drum shooter is a step up from what we were doing this season. So we can still upgrade our build skills, but instead of working on something that we don't think we can execute well or really at all, we can work more on the quality of our build so we can increase how good our builds are before we move on to something like a turret. For our spindexer/indexer, the spindexer was good, but it could have been improved with tuning, and for the lack of prototyping time we'll have this season, I think a roller floor would be better because it should be fairly simple to execute, but still work really well. But the other advantage is if we do something like what Spectrum did, where they basically had the roller floor on I don't know what you call it, but like you can basically lift the roller floor up. So you had clear access to all your electronics underneath it, which makes organization and managing them, servicing them, and building them all much simpler because we're not having to take it out and fit it in a single 1 inch gap. and also overall the roller floor seemed to work really well. We originally wanted to go with a brain pan, but Cedric and I were talking. I don't know yet if we've decided yet, but I think we're gonna stick with just the normal one belly pan and electronics on top because of how the roller floor is done. We still have the space for electronics because we can just lift that floor up and it's like a good 2, 3 something inches, I think. Maybe 4. I think I have it like 4.5. So there's not really a need for a brain pan there. It also makes attaching like our shooter and intake a lot simpler because we don't have that belly pan on top. We decided no climb for at least for our all-season robot. We wanted to do an L3 to kind of learn how to do an elevator well because we weren't able to do that amazing last season. And if we have a game with another elevator that we need to build, we don't really have a practice. But I don't think we could build a good robot with an L3 and a drum shooter. So we were thinking instead of building it with this robot, we instead build it separate back when school starts up again in August. And then we can still get the elevator experience, but then focus more on our build quality for this robot. And then we just have a timeline of like kind of when we want to have things done by because we only have access to the schools until I think it's June 5th, right, Cedric?
Yeah, it's like the first week of June, but that's finals week, so even that would be tough. Like we would probably have the end
Yeah.
of May.
So like end of May is when we'll have access, so we have to be very careful and precise on when we are doing things because if we're still working on the CAD end of May, by the time we're ready to start prototyping, we're no longer have access. Um, so we want to get some things done at Lamar and Westside before we have to turn to Audi or Spectrum to have parts machined. So I think that's about all that we've kind of gone over this week, and then we've started the CAD for the robot.
We should we should update the timeline and maybe think about this is like the new robot timeline, and then we have the programming timeline of the current robot. Because I think the programming group can make a lot of progress on the current robot to just improve their knowledge of how April tags works, how um, PID could work better, all those sorts of things. So
Okay. I think
um,
that's something Misha could probably start doing because I know they're still meeting on Tuesdays, and the robot should be at Lamar. So that's
well,
something they can go ahead and start.
I would say Brandon needs to also be more,
True.
Brandon and
Yeah,
Drew. So let's get those guys really going in the right direction because Misha's graduating, right? So
that
we
is true.
want
Yeah.
we want the new people to go. I want Misha to help them, but eventually he's going to go to college, so we're going to have to come up with a schedule on programming. So that might be a separate topic that we get into. Um, I think for now you guys are on the right track. I would recommend just grabbing Spectrum's CAD and learning a lot and trying not to reinvent a lot of the details. The only thing that is going to be different is obviously their swerve modules are different, but it's probably a good place to start is just opening up the CAD and identifying things you don't want to do, and if there's things that you do want to do, then start merging it together. And it sounds like you have most of the design features you want. So I don't think you need to spend a lot of time brainstorming. It's just find something that you like. Maybe you have another CAD out there that from a different robot that you're just using as a comparison.
Mainly
And
Spectrum.
I understand it's mainly Spectrum, but you could have another one that you're just looking at in case you decide there's something you really don't like that Spectrum did. But
Yeah.
you definitely want to start from a baseline of somebody that's already implemented. It's going to save you a lot of time instead of just doing it from scratch.
That's a lot of what I'm doing is looking at like in general how they did things and then changing it to fit more like how we do our things. For like how we do our motors, like changing compression so they fit the power of our motors.
Right, because they're using all Krakens and like more different motors than what we use. So yeah, slightly different ratios, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So who else is working on the CAD stuff?
It's been me and Levi so far, and we're gonna get Mark more involved. Mark talked to me in the middle of this past season, but it was just tough to hop in mid season. So we're gonna get him involved in CAD. I think that's it in terms of the CAD.
We need to go bigger. So let's start diving in. I'll look at the list and try to talk to people, see who wants to get more into it. It's important that
I think
that people follow along, even if they're not doing the CAD, just follow along what we're doing, that kind of thing.
I think Ethan, you said you also wanted to like start learning, correct?
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll talk to more people. You guys just continue full steam ahead, but I'm gonna try to push more people to get involved. Same
Okay.
with programming. I feel like we need to have 5 or 6 programmers working carefully together, and then maybe 5 or 6 people doing CAD, trying to keep up with what we're doing.
I would like to say that programming side from Lamar is a little bit what's the word lacking because from what I've heard, I think Justin might be transferring to energy. So the only person that would know at least a little bit of code, from what I understand, is Levi and maybe Brock. They might be trying to learn code, but other than that, there's really like nobody at Lamar that's actually going to know code. So with the robot being at Lamar usually for the seasons, it'll be, I guess, probably hard for the next year. So somebody will need to get found.
Yeah, I'm really looking to Carnegie. They have a lot of people that know quite a bit about programming.
So I meant for
lean
like actually
heavily-
being able to like quickly test on the actual robot itself.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a problem. You're absolutely right. Lamar needs to have more people. So maybe talk to people that you know that are in the programming group that are curious. This might be a good time to have them come
I'll
over.
see. I'll try to find some people.
Maybe you can ask Woolweaver if you could just talk at her programming class and say this is stuff we're doing if you're interested.
Yeah, I mean,
connect and-
Oliver only teaches juniors and seniors now, so I have to talk to the other teacher. But I know the current juniors are not interested in DiscoBots.
Okay, well, let's go younger. Yeah, I say
Yeah, I'll try to
go
post out some ads.
sophomores. Yeah, let's see if we can get some that would be interested.